Hello and welcome to John and James Live. My name's John Hastings, and here is my co-host in a dressing gown today. James, you
Well,
just woke up?
it does look like it, doesn't it? It's a bit chilly today, so I thought I'd put on the fleece. And
You've
this
gone
thing's got
cash.
fleece on the inside and the outside. Who knew?
Very nice. Little vegan bangle
Wow.
there as well. Very trendy. Bang on trend. I've just gone t-shirt because I'm hard.
Yeah, you're hardcore, mate.
I'm hardcore. That's what I am. I'm military. How are you, James?
Military grade. I'm good.
You okay today? Sometimes Mondays after a weekend, it can be quite hard to get back in the flow, isn't it? But it's you just got to crack on, James. You got to go out there, give it your all.
I've just got to crack on. I'm feeling it's kind of little bit pimpish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely country pimp.
Country pimp.
That's a new vibe for you. A new vibe. Anyway, James, today we're going to be talking about, is society progressing or regressing?
What's the opposite of
progressing or regressing? That is the big question of today. So if you're out there, give us a thumbs up in the comments section. And yeah, we'd like to hear people's views to see, what are people's challenges out there? What are they facing at the moment? Obviously, there's some big economic challenges right now, isn't there, with the whole Gary Stevenson and Daniel Priestley debate. It was all really about inequality and the potential collapse of our economy and society and the cost of living crisis and things like that. So people are obviously feeling the pinch, aren't they, James, at the moment?
They are. I think there's been quite a few people commenting on LinkedIn, isn't they? I think that a few quite high-profile people have been putting posts up, videos up. There's been quite a bit of discourse around it that people are getting quite different perspectives on it. I think that either you're in favor of this sort of entrepreneurial journey of the grind and getting out of servitude and freedom, and then you've got the other side where actually we're trying to big up the workers, that they should get a fair wage, and without them society collapses around our ears. So it's a nice utopian thought, is to have everybody working for themselves and having that financial freedom. But the reality is there has to be the people doing the foundational work. Otherwise, it just doesn't.
It would be quite funny though, wouldn't it, if you're in the hospital and then you're like, all of the nurses have got their own individual personal brand and selling you each on a $9.97 3-week course. Every single one of them.
Of it, doesn't it? Yeah, you can't come to me because I'm not that nurse. You've got to go to somebody else there that's been doing it for longer than I have and has
yeah. You go into the hospital and you're like trapped in this sales funnel. You're like in bed trying to get your appendix out or something, and somebody's it's like a conveyor belt of sales funnels, just completely like commoditizing every inch of every.
I'm delighted to announce that I am now qualified to remove your appendix.
Yeah.
I mean, it does. It sort of brings things into perspective a little bit, doesn't it? That this kind of game that we play on social media.
Yeah. The commodification of everything, James. Do you think how far can it go? I said before I was going to charge my nan for a conversation soon. It's like I could get her on a monthly subscription. I said to Nan, look, you're watching Netflix. I could literally come and speak to you half an hour a day, £100 a month. That's not bad, is it?
It's not bad.
It's one-on-one. I gave her the sales pitch. I think she was in one foot was in the sales funnel at that point, and then she tapped out.
And dare I say, how many touch points before that point, before that conversation happened? Was it 7?
No, I had to warm her up
magic
for
number.
she had to see me for at least 7 hours to get the like, know, and trust.
And consistently show up. So that she can invest in you emotionally. Even though you are a grandson, it's like, still not sure. Tell me about it again. What was it? And then, and then you tell her again. It's like, let me ever think about it.
Yeah. But it is, you know, we're in the same game, aren't we? Everybody's trying to survive. I'm not, you know, having a go at people doing personal branding and stuff. I get it. Everyone's trying their own. Well, I am a little bit.
Slightly hypocritical of us, isn't it?
It's hypocritical. It's quite funny though, when you just look at it objectively, when you sort of extrapolate where that goes. It just gets ridiculous, doesn't it? If you think that everybody could be the same as you, or everybody should be the same as you, or anybody can make it, everyone's an entrepreneur. It just goes to cuckoo land, doesn't it, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's okay not to be built that way. It's like, it's all right not to want to be an entrepreneur. And there are ways in which you can create that freedom for yourself by being employed. But I think, you know, you've got the different echelons of society, that people that can earn a decent wage through paid employment. And then you've got the guys and the girls at the bottom that are really, really struggling.
Yeah. And fair play to Daniel Priestley was saying, look, these entrepreneurs do create jobs for a lot of people. There's some people who are very creative, good at organizing, good at creation and creating these things. So we need all different people in society, don't we? But like you said, we definitely need people to be able to have a normal job and be able to live, because those jobs might not be well paid, but they are vital to a functioning society. And once you squeeze those people too far, you know, nothing's going to get done, is it? Who's going to come to your house when it's burning down, or you need, you know, look after your sick child in a hospital, or the bins need to go out, or cleaning needs to be done, or it could be anything, or teachers, just any, pretty much could be any job, can't it? That's not in the 6-7 figure mark, but is vital to society. It's like those people have got a right to live. It doesn't mean they're not. If you don't choose this entrepreneurial path, it doesn't mean you're not ambitious. It doesn't mean you're not somebody who's
not worth
lazy or mediocre person. You could be the most interesting person in the world. You might be well read. You might be vast interest, great community. It could be some banker person and all they do is try and figure out how to make money and swindle people and sell assets like weaponry and stuff like that, make millions, look, you know, subjectively successful, and be a miserable cocaine addict.
Yeah. And we're not tarring all bankers with the same brush.
That was from Gary's book.
Yeah, we're not doing
crack
that.
Addicts. James said it.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the question. We won't.
Well, that seamlessly brings us on to, doesn't it? Whether everything is going to become automated. I mean, I was just in my head. This is how my brain works. I was thinking about a rubbish truck, like a bin lorry going down the street, and all your wheelie bins are just kind of out on the street. And they could have just some giant arm that reaches out, senses where the bin is, grabs it, and then puts it into the back. I guess that is a potential right now. And actually, if you don't leave your wheelie bin out on the road, if it's still on your driveway, it doesn't get emptied.
Yeah.
Even if there is a human being that's wheeling them out to the truck. So, you know, there could be an arm that reaches out, grabs the bin, chucks it in the back, and then puts it back again. So I guess 100%. that could
you could automate a lot of these. Yeah, you could automate a lot of these jobs out, James, couldn't you? You could have the bin has to be placed in a certain area. If it's not there, the thing don't pick it up or whatever it is. But you could have this automated vehicle comes around, picks them up, puts it in.
And it doesn't need a driver because that could be autonomous.
It doesn't need a driver, yeah.
Yeah. So the whole thing could realistically be automated, be much more efficient.
In most areas, yeah.
But
what does it mean to philosophically, James? What does it mean to progress or regress? Because it has to be anchored to something, doesn't it? You have to be anchoring it. Are we talking about, is it getting better from the past? Is it yesterday? Is it what context? There is obviously things that have got much better in society, haven't there? If you went and had an operation 100 years ago and anesthetic didn't exist, I don't think you'd be saying
bit of leather
to
bite down on. And that was about it. That was as good as you get. Some whiskey and a bit of leather.
Yeah. Or like loads of kids dying at childbirth and mothers dying at childbirth. You wouldn't say, oh, bloody hell, things have got worse since then, would you? The Great Depression in the, what was it, 30s? Things were real bad.
20s and 30s. Yeah, yeah.
Things were real bad. Have we become soft?
That's a very good question, mate. That's a very good. I was talking to somebody earlier, and that was it. So they had an interview to work for, interestingly enough, an insurance company, and it was in the 60s, so about 1967 or something like that, I think she said. And the interview was all scheduled in, and but there was a postal strike, so she didn't get the letter in the post until the morning of the interview. So she opened it, panicked, didn't drive, so she had to then go run to her aunt's house, who had a telephone, because she didn't have a telephone in the house, call the hotel where the interview was, speak to the person who's the interview was with, say that I've only just got the letter. They said, that's fine, we're going to go to lunch, we'll come back later in the afternoon. So then she had to go and have a quick bath, get dressed, on the bus, get there, walk from then to the train station, then to the interview. And you think now it's unheard of, isn't it? That just would not happen. That you would have had an email, you would have had a text, you would have had, and then you would have been able to jump on your mobile phone and explain if you were running late or something like that. You'd then hop in the car if you had a car, or jump on an electric scooter and get there within sort of minutes. So things have definitely kind of progressed in that respect. And you think, well, are we getting softer? Because, had that be an issue today, would somebody have just gone, oh, well, it's too late, isn't it? I've missed it, sod it. But then even back then, depending on the individual, they could have done exactly the same thing. But that particular person I was talking to had that kind of character that they made sure that they got to that interview. So it's difficult isn't it, to say.
Lee said it's progressing backwards.
Well, Lee.
I think, Lee, you're right. I think it's good.
Covered both bases there, mate. Covered both bases. So good
it's bad. It's so right it's wrong at the moment. It's I don't know the difference between left and right. No, Democrats and Republicans. It is a bit of a blurry situation, but obviously I would say we're progressing in some respects, aren't we? Yeah, where are we progressing? You tell me where we're progressing, James.
Well, certainly, like you mentioned, healthcare is getting better. We're living longer, for sure.
Healthcare. So science and healthcare, you would say it's improving, isn't it?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So I believe, it's one of these things, isn't it? It's like is progression for progression's sake a good thing? Do we feel the need to progress just to feel like we're moving forward?
Matty England, we've started to focus on anything negative as bad or trauma inducing when it is often just part of the human experience. We're pathologizing anything that isn't positive. So I would say we are definitely losing our resilience. I think I think it could be a good point. Yeah. In some respects, there's definitely more of awareness of what they would call trauma. Maybe that has been maybe siphoned into a weird corner, trauma, isn't it? Because trauma, in a sense, is life, because bad things do happen and things that should happen, don't, and vice versa. But there is degrees of trauma as well, isn't there, James? To be honest,
yeah,
it's contextual.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, when you get a diagnosis, and we've talked about this before. If you get a diagnosis and you then have that sort of information that you've got, it's what you do with that information. So it can either be like, well, I've got this, so I can't do this, or I've got this, so I now know the reasons why I am the way I am, so these are the coping mechanisms that I use. So it's highly nuanced. It's, very individualized. We are hyper aware of all of these things now that we've got going on. We may have, come into a situation where we're being overdiagnosed, and, we're now sort of losing agency and relinquishing control over our own outcomes, either to big pharma or to, whoever, that we're sort of now in a situation where, well, I can't do anything for myself because I've been to the GP. The GP's told me I've got high blood pressure, so I'm just not going to do anything now apart from taking high blood pressure tablets, for example.
Yeah.
So whereas actually, with a schedule of walking for an hour a day, which you then can increase duration, how brisk you walk will vastly reduce your blood pressure, and that is within your control. Now, clearly there's a case to be made that, if there's a definite need that you need blood pressure medication, that it's going to save your life, then for sure. But there are things that you can do to improve that situation by not taking any medication, but taking control of your own outcomes. So, I guess it's an education thing. It's a knowledge thing. If you know that mechanism will work for you, and there's so much information out there now that if you just do a bit of research, all that is there. But it's whether you believe that is the case, whether doing something like that will actually improve your health outcomes, or you just think, actually, I'm just going to take some pills because it's easier.
But when Matty's saying about we're definitely losing our resilience, what do you think? Do you think, Matty, that you obviously do because you've said it about losing our resilience, or is it just, if you put people 50 years ago in the same place that kids are in now, would they just be reacting the same as kids are now? If you put kids back then, would they be, just adapting to their environment? Because you see, you with your older grandparents, if you give them some type of tech thing to do, they some of them can lose their mind. They don't look very resilient when you give them that. They get super flustered.
We
don't know
romanticizing the past in that respect?
Yeah, we romanticize that. These older people are getting really flustered over something that we would think is super simple to do, like online banking. And it's like the hardest thing for them. But I'm not surprised. It's because they're just not used to it. They wasn't born into it. That's not what they're used to. But is that old people not being resilient, or is it just them not being used to an environment?
And again, you need to qualify what resilience looks like. Is it mental resilience or is it physical resilience? We've become more mental. I think things now are becoming much more taxing on the brain than ever before. Physically, we're potentially less physical than we used to be in previous years because things have become automated. So, farming, manual labor, all those sort of things have been reduced in terms of what we're doing manually. But mental resilience might be a different thing. I think the fact that there's a greater awareness around mental health, it's shone a light on it. And then were a lot of people in the past suffering in silence?
So Matt says, yes, mental resilience. I believe resilience builds in much the same way as our immune system does. It has to be used in real world ways. Yeah, I don't think I agree with Matty. Definitely, you've got to build resilience in real world ways, but I think that the youth today are building up their own coping. That is a coping strategy. I don't think they're any less resilient. It might seem that way, but if you did put, older generations in today's world, like you say, James, there is like infinite choice. It is an exhaustion of the mind, isn't there? It's like, what do you study? Who do you follow? Even the structure of relationships have degraded. A lot of these kids are growing up with no fathers, like half of them, people getting divorced. There isn't that nucleus where the family unit is tight, where the father or mother can afford a property. They can, one has to work, one can actually afford to look after their children. So do we shield them, or are they actually, open to the elements?
Well,
we shield so much now. People
I
don't face
agree.
challenges like they used to.
I mean, I agree with Matty, and speaking from a parent's perspective, and I think generationally,
you think they're shielded, James?
Well, we as parents, I think we potentially overcompensate. As the generations go on, we want better for our children. It's that awareness piece, and so much around mental health that certainly myself, I find myself feeling anxious about how my kids are feeling. With all the suicide awareness and conversations around that, I feel, at times hypersensitive to what's going on with them. And I then catch myself doing it to then not make them feel. It's this self-perpetuating thing that I'm sort of calling them up saying, oh, you're right. Just make sure that they know that they can talk to me. And I spoke to the kids over the weekend. I catch up with them and just checking in with them, seeing if they're okay. But I don't want to come across as being like, are you all right? Are you okay? Is everything all right? And they're going, yes, Dad. What's going on? So I've got to manage my own emotions around it. But certainly, I want to make sure that I'm just keeping tabs on it so that I'm reassuring them that if they do need to talk, they can talk to me, or they can talk to my wife.
Yeah. I understand what Matty is saying about that shielding. I'm just not sure if, I think in some contexts there is a definite shielding, but in other ways, I would say that children are exposed to, they've never been exposed to more advertising. They've never been exposed to more manipulation. There's never been exposed to more screen time. They've never been exposed to the internet. They're one click away from, hardcore porn. If you go on Twitter, it's people chopping each other's heads off. They've never been more exposed in a lot of ways. And if you protect your kids from that, it doesn't mean they're not going to go to school and 10 other people, they're not going to get access from 10 other people who have also got access to this internet thing. So are we really, are they really that shielded? They seem to be growing up faster now. If you see, I noticed it because you might have noticed it as well because you got daughters, but I've got daughters at two different ages, early 20s and in the teens now, mid to late teens. And everybody used to say it, man, kids are growing up faster these days. Is that not a thing, James? Or am I just making that up?
Well, that's a perception, isn't it? I don't know that you're making it up at all. And it's fascinating when you see that I think Australia have legalized no social media. They've set the age at 16 before you can have social media.
Yeah.
And, to protect young minds. And you don't know we have no idea. I know there's been research, and I know there would have been a lot of papers done on this, but it's still so early in terms of the onset of social media to know the long-term impacts on a developing brain.
Yeah.
To actually know how bad this is going to get.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to be kind of, fear mongering and be kind of catastrophizing about it. But there just isn't the research there at the moment to see how this has impacted. But I mean, kids have been watching TV for since the 40s, 50s, kids TV, and that's developing what they're watching in their formative years. Then there was the thing around advertising, what children can be exposed to in terms of advertising and the appropriateness of that. But as you say, I mean, they can go onto YouTube, they can go on Google, they can search whatever they like. If there isn't parental controls over, the devices they're using. But I know that, in conversations that, like Snapchat, for example, that can be overridden. There's things that can be done on social media that, means that parents don't have that control.
May says, I see what you mean. Think the internet is part of the shielding problem because it isn't real world experience. So yes, more exposure, but not in a way that helps children deal with actual events. It's a virtual form of experience.
So, I mean, if there could be, we've talked about this before.
I would be interested to know what events Matty's talking about, because I know that's just children, but even other, adults, I guess there were more jobs for life maybe 40, 50 years ago. Now there's a lot more instability in the working environment than there was, isn't there? So that is a challenge in itself.
Yeah. On that point, Matty, I think there'd be a really interesting study to be done into different cultures around rites of passage for young men and young women, and how they then have that delineation between being a child to being an adult, because we don't have it in Western society. There's no real sort of, celebration or a ceremony around that actually qualifies you as an adult. It's just you drift in. It's this kind of this seamless transition from child to adult, and all sorts of assumptions made around the child brain and the adult brain, what it's capable of and what it can cope with. But I don't know that there is. It would be really interesting societies that are exposed to social media, societies that aren't exposed to social media, ones that do have these rites of passage ceremonies that is being passed down from generation to generation. Now, not all of those are entirely appropriate necessarily, but it's just a marking of this transition from child to adult. And there's, this kind of feeling like, that is the time and what it means. And then you've got tribal elders, or you've got some form of guidance as to what it is to be an adult, what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman, and making sense of that. But there's freedoms around that as well in terms of interpretation, but there just doesn't seem to be a constructive way in which they can then move forward in the world as a person who is now classed as an adult.
Yeah, I definitely think there's things from the past, like you're saying, that are beneficial in the future. But I would definitely look at, looking at words like real and defining what real is, because you could say anything's real. If it's in this world and it is an experience, then the internet is real. It's a real world experience. AI, virtual reality. It's how you define real. And then we go back to even old evolutionary experiences. Things weren't, happy-go-lucky, were they? There was a lot of suppression, oppression, slavery, women's rights, gay rights, all of these things that are evolving. They are changing. There's a consciousness change. Even rape was legal in marriages up until like 1992. So you got to think, wow, you could have raped your wife and that would have been fine up until that.
As long as you were married, that was okay.
Yeah. So there are laws that we seem to be evolving inner consciousness, I would say. And I think it is, because I've done the article, didn't I? Is life, regressing from the 1970s to now? And in some respects, we clearly stated things like, obesity, depression, all of those type of things, house prices. There's definitely a regression in some parts of life. And there probably was a sweet spot. Maybe people say it was maybe the 90s or something, where house prices were a certain price, quality of life was pretty good for most people on average. And then there's a little bit of a decline. But is that just the way life is? Is it your perception of how you feel progress and regression? Because you can be doing both at the same time, can't you, James? It's like if you go into the gym and you're really pushing yourself, it can be hard. You break down the muscle tissue, but you're getting sort of better the next time. Is that what we're doing as a society?
Yeah, I mean, this process called hormesis, which is the sort of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So there's this, little bit of adversity which can help you to improve, and done in a controlled way, in a low dosage, is actually shown to be beneficial for you. So I think there's, where you go into something that is an unknown, you get that anxiety around it because it's an unknown. So an exposure to a particular event, doing something, going for an interview, for example, is always scary the first time you do it. But then you start to understand what the process is. Some of the questions are very similar, the format, etc. So, it's all of these sort of things that, just like little exposures, are going to help you build that, resilience. It is like building a muscle. But that if you avoid it, then you never know, and you never get that sense of what you're capable of. So, that whole comfort zone thing, doing certain things that, you really don't want to do, but actually when you do it, aren't that bad. If it's not going to threaten your life, then sometimes it's not a bad thing to try, because you're suddenly then aware of, well, shit, I can do that.
You want to read this one,
and it can be James? Yeah. So, I think Pavina's saying it's definitely up to interpretation. There are too many popular opinions that influence too many young people, and yet with the same openness, there's no accountability for put downs. It's easy to join the masses.
I feel we have regressed as humanity. I'll be interested, Paveen, is that contextual? Because we've definitely progressed in a lot of areas, haven't we?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to your lived experience, isn't it? How you feel generally as to whether you're feeling from a kind of abundance mindset, or that we've got.
Don't you think we mollycoddle a bit too much? That's what we was just talking about, wasn't we, James? If we're same with Matty, are we mollycoddling a little bit too much with the young people? But I get it. It's a difficult one, isn't it? I don't know if I have the answers. It's even things like playing outside. I was playing outside as a kid by myself at 7 years old. We basically had this thing on the middle of our street called Mungo's. It's basically ex-convicts go to live there.
Right.
On Cedars Road in Clapham, people will know Mungo's. We have all drunk people, crack addicts sitting on the benches on the wall on this road. I was probably 7, 8 years old playing outside by myself with other kids in that environment. Now you're scared to send your kid out with a babysitter, aren't you, by yourself? It's completely a different time, isn't it? I don't know if that's the fear of the media, or there was stuff behind the scenes back, like you said, back in the Jimmy Savile days, and all of this stuff that was going on behind the scenes.
It's a double-edged sword, mate. People weren't talking about. It was accepted. They didn't want to rock the boat,
Yeah.
because of the status, etc. But it's like, I think because news now is pumped into your brain, into your eyeballs 24/7, that anything that happens, you're going to know about at the time that it happens. It's instant. So, we've got this kind of self-perpetuating anxiety that's there that then gets passed down to kids. Kids then feel it because their parents were anxious. Kids are now growing up anxious. So you can see how we can't blame the kids.
James.
We can't blame children for how they're feeling right now. It's because, certainly, I would count myself in the generation of parents that were all of a sudden very aware of, you got Jamie Bulger, that case that came up, that seemed to be the sort of
I remember that.
This sort of watershed moment that everybody was then going, well, Jesus, if 2 13-year-old boys can abduct a 3-year-old child and do that, it's like, what else is possible in the world? And
but you had things like the Yorkshire Ripper, you had all sorts of stuff, didn't you? You had all of these things going on.
Yeah, it was there, but you had to buy a newspaper, you had to physically watch the news.
Yeah.
It wasn't getting pumped at you 24/7.
Exactly. That's the difference.
Heightening your anxiety, and then you're going
in your brain.
And you're then, you're fixated on your child. I mean, I can remember taking them to a play park, and I had 3 children. It was just me on my own. And literally at one point, I could only have 2 children in my eye line at one time. So one was always sort of just out, but like one went missing, and your heart stops. I mean, you feel sick. It's the worst feeling in the world. So you can imagine how a parent would feel if their child did get abducted, and that lives with you long in the memory. Yeah. So you can see how people become, and that, as I said, it translates through to the child. They then have that, they absorb that anxiety from the parent. They think, well, if they don't think I'm safe, I certainly don't feel safe. It's us as the parents that are supposed to be calm and collected, and they take their lead as a child from the parent.
Yeah, the culture's definitely changed, doesn't it, James? No matter how you dress it up, the culture's changed. So Pavine says, in Jimmy Savile as a child, I had an old gentleman friend at church. He would walk me and my sister home. Today, that would be unheard of. 100%, there's more fear.
It's a shame. I mean, that's because the innocence is still there. You've got these...
But we can't blame kids for that, can we?
No, but these are...
How can we blame kids for that? That's adults, isn't it?
These are all outliers. The people that perpetrate are massively in the minority. But
they're in the minority.
As a society, we've assumed that there's always, there's guilt until proven innocent, almost, with these situations.
He says, when I mentioned real world, that's kind of what I meant. Experience in the physical real world is different to experience online. Online seems to breed fear that then stops us experiencing the real physical world properly.
Agreed.
I would say that as well, Matty. I was Spain the other day. I'm not going to say the council estate thing, James, but Matty, my mum was from a council estate. I did grow up there, and she did used to take us on holiday every year. We even went to the Caribbean. I have no idea how she afforded it. She was a cleaner. Now, if I took my daughter or my kids on that same holiday, I'm looking... Probably, I looked at it the other day to the Caribbean, the same holiday, same amount of people. I'm looking at about 15-20 grand. Man, people can't even afford a coffee these days, barely. Whereas my mum and stepdad were going Friday, Saturday, Sunday night to Labour clubs, spending money on drinks. There's no way I even do that now. I'm cautious of how much I spend on coffee. Maybe I'll have one on the weekend when I go out. So, are people not experiencing stuff because they can't afford it? Even the middle class? I know that that's not for everybody, but I know a lot of people, even middle class people, who are feeling the same. They've got maybe expensive lifestyles, James, where they got to pay their mortgages. Maybe they send the kids to a few classes, and by the end of the day, they're thinking, "Oh man, we might have to skip the holiday this year." Whereas back in the day, you had council estate people going on holidays. I'm talking about the 90s here. I don't know if that was for everybody.
I mean, Spain was huge in the 80s, 90s, wasn't it? Everybody going.
Yeah. So you got the fear of going out. You've got the lack of money to have more experiences. Probably, Matty, you would agree as well. The pub was the central hub of most people's lives, and those are pretty much all closing down because they can't afford to compete. Maybe not a bad thing, because life's not geared around alcohol, but you go into a coffee shop, everybody's on their phone, aren't they? So it's a completely different kettle of fish. It's not a community thing. Church is dying down, so
yeah, where are the community
it's totally
hubs?
different. Matty says council here too. Yes, Matty, England. Whereabouts are you from, Matty? Obviously England. Pavine, people have different priorities these days. A new device, Sheen, Temu, Smokes. I don't really know what I think Sheen is. I think I've seen that. My daughter's mentioned that. I don't know if that's a close. No. Is that a cheap?
Mate, I feel old now. Because my kids are kind of adults now, so I'm massively out of the loop.
Yeah, but it's so if things.
Fascinating.
So in general, society, I think we're going through a revolution that's hard to comprehend. I would say, like we've mentioned before, last 200 years. 1 billion to 8 billion people in the world. We've got the, electricity, planes have been invented. We've got the internet. Now we've got AI. We've got the house pricing. We've had 2 world wars. We've just had so much. We've had so much going on, haven't we? North Shore, Blackpool. I've never been to Blackpool, actually.
Have you, James? Blackpool. Yeah. As a kid.
What's it like, Matty? Would you say there's obviously a decline in seaside?
So it's incredibly un-PC now, but as a kid, I went to see the Black and White Minstrel Show in Blackpool.
Jesus, that is controversial, James, to be honest.
That is controversial.
I live in a little village called Poulton now. Lovely little village. Oh, Matty's moved up in the world from the old council estate. Now he's middle class Matty, we'll call him. Yeah, it's
good for you, Matty. Good for you,
Matty.
Mate.
What's Blackpool like? Would you say Blackpool's gone down the Swanee, or is it need rejuvenating? It was a seaside town, wasn't it? Maybe it was
the Illuminations is all I can remember.
It was a bit of a hub back in the day, wasn't it? The Blackpool. I think it was a bustling place of comedy.
I think I went to watch. Music. Do you remember Cannon and Ball? Do you remember Cannon and Ball? Because we're 10 years apart, and I think I saw them there as well.
Look at the world leaders of today. Capitalistic society. Blackpool was the place we went to every year.
Every year, Pavine. It's a small world, isn't it?
I used to go to Butlins. Bognor. I don't know if you've been Bognor Regis or Pontins. I've been to Bognor. Like that was awesome. Yeah. That was so good. Butlins, man.
Mate, I did PGL holidays. Did you ever do a PGL holiday when you were a kid? So this is a case in point that a load of like 13, 14-year-olds basically left to run feral through the Brecon Beacons. It was incredible. It was fantastic. We did like horse riding, canoeing, mountaineering, and I think we stayed a couple of times. A mate of mine, Dan. So Dan came on one of our first lives and did made some comments. But we did a PGL holiday together, and we stayed in like a monastery in the Brecon Beacons. And it was a free for all, like discos for kids and. Yeah,
I never heard of it. Have you guys out there heard of PGL? Matty said Blackpool isn't the best anymore. He said the Illumination haven't been updated
since the
80s. Not quite middle class, still got my roots. Pavine says John's a little bit upper class now. Yes. Pavine, I'm glad that you noticed.
The heady heights of the upper class. He makes such a big thing about coming from a council estate, but
the gentry.
I think I need evidence, mate.
Maybe I'm part of the gentry.
Evidence.
Yeah, nobody believes me. I said to you, I went to my friend's sister's wedding, and on the table they thought that I was posh. Man, yes. I definitely took that as a compliment, to be honest. I was like,
I'm telling you now that nobody who came from a council estate wears corduroys.
And that's all I wear. I love a corduroy.
Mate, don't come at me with that whole council estate bullshit, because
a barber jacket, corduroys, and
not even just normal corduroys. They were coloured.
Yeah, brown. That's all I've got. A green and a brown pair of corduroys. They are probably the least council estate things you'll ever see,
corduroys, right? Mate. The next pair are going to be red.
Yeah, it's very King Charles, isn't it? The old
and the fact that you have to mention it on every single live makes
I know it seems to always crop up. I really don't know why.
On your shoulder, mate.
But so society, James, progressing. I worked 8 years for nobility in Italy. I wear cords sometimes. There you go, Paveen. That's Paveen. Love a bit of
corduroy. I haven't worn cords since the 80s, mate, to be fair.
Yeah, if you check out the I think it's the Duke of Tuscany from the 1500s, Medici.
He wore cords.
Well, apparently I'm a spitting image of Medici. I look exactly like him. So I'm pretty much royalty reincarnated. Yeah, check Mr. Medici out.
Mr. Medici. Well, I've got Italian roots as well, mate. So
yeah, that's why you go. That's why you go brown, isn't it, James?
Tan.
Currently staying a mile away from Sandringham, the King's not home. Oh, Paveen. I used to. Auntie was in King's Lynn, so I used to visit Sandringham quite a bit. Have you been to Hunstanton, Paveen? I think that was quite a close seaside town. Man, I got good memories of a kid being a poor council estate kid. I went on so many holidays. Now I'm middle class. I can't afford to take the kids anywhere. What's going on, James?
Life has regressed. Medici. Medici. There you go. That's how you pronounce it. Medici. Medici.
How do you say it?
Medici.
Medici, I think it is. I think it's a TV program on Netflix, wasn't it? The Medici series. I would say that we're going through this revolution, James. And
have we gone off topic slightly?
Yeah, I think things are tough right now. Not for people maybe in the top 1 to 5% who are winning, whose assets keep spiraling upwards and they've got access to things. I would say a lot of people underneath just trying to pay rent, bills, sort the kids out, juggle life. The dynamics with relationships seem to be
survival, mate, isn't it? Come on,
survival.
It's hard. Survival.
Even the middle class. Even I'm noticing when I was training a lot of rich people, they don't escape the psychology and the challenge of it because they're constantly in the hamster wheel. The challenge is, it seems to be we thought 40 years ago there was people philosophizing that technology is going to be the thing that frees us, it liberates us. It's going to be a 3-day week, they predicted from now. Yeah. It's gone in the opposite direction, James. It's gone, people are doing their emails at home, working on weekends.
Well, it's interesting when you look at the pandemic and people working from home, all of a sudden their workload went up through the roof because they didn't have the commute and it was perceived that they had more time on their hands. So they were just given even more work. So Paveen said, bravo, Jimmy. Interesting. That people's workload went up, because it was perceived that they had more time. They had back-to-back Zoom calls, and it's been sort of freeing in certain ways and then trapping in others.
Yeah, so Pavine says, don't you think that it's ironic we're all from council estates, but we made it because we had hope. We all wanted to work and do better. We weren't emphasized by all these things that we think we all deserve. I would like to say I've made it, Pavine, but I'm probably doing better than my dad. Definitely. In some ways. But made
so
it.
This is the definition of success right here, mate, in terms of where you feel you're at emotionally. You know, I'm hugely successful in that respect. I think where I am now, I feel incredibly proud and successful to have a marriage that I'm in. My children are in stable situations, and I've made very good relationships, friends, etc., etc. So, you know, that's my definition of success. Financially, not so much. Could be better, but
could be
I'm
worse.
grateful for every day, my man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not saying just because you come from a council estate you can have a good living. You know, even that Gary Stevenson says that his dad would watch the football every week. He bought a house. He was a council estate guy. I'm just saying nowadays, what I would say to Pavine is, you know, what chance have the kids got? You know, even just to buy a simple house, or the rental prices, especially if you're living in somewhere like I am in London. I know you can move out, but a lot of the work is based here. Yeah, you can work online. There's always something, but when you look at it from, you know, the masses, then you know, it's the same with your kids, James, isn't it? In terms of them buying property or then starting a family, it has gone to a next level of difficulty. Something that
and the ironic thing is, I'm seeing houses pop up everywhere. I mean, the development around here, you know, not so much. You go to sort of maybe 3 or 4 miles up the road, and it's just a sea of houses that are going up. I mean, they have pushed the button on house building, and a lot of them are social housing. They've got to have an allocation of so many that are allocated to social housing, first-time buyers, all that sort of thing. That, you know, there's houses like 2-bedroom houses, detached, semi-detached, and terrace.
Yeah, but who wants to live in
somebody's
James?
fine.
Jesus, they got to be desperate, haven't they?
Yeah, pretty much, mate.
You should watch Idiosyncrasy and Wall-E, the kids movie. I think I've seen Wall-E. It was quite good. The world is pushing AI on us. Look, Pavina, I think AI, controversial, is our pathway. I think it's our ticket to freedom. I think if we can automate a lot of the mundane work that needs doing, we can create unlimited abundance of food. We could probably just build houses using AI and robots, you know, very simply. But you've got to have an infrastructure so people can live, survive, live good lives. I'm saying we need to maybe redefine the meaning of work, progress. But AI is something that could really accelerate human potential. But in the short term, because we're living in this old mindset of scarcity and ownership, then I think it's going to be extremely challenging. I think it will displace jobs. You know, I think people will have I was speaking to my wife at coffee the other day, and I was just saying that I think people are going to have best friends, AI best friends. For me, I think I like it because I want to ask questions about, you know, I can't remember what documentary I was even watching, James. I was telling you that something about the East India Company.
The East India Company. East India Company. Yeah.
Yeah, East India Company. I was thinking if I had this AI friend, I'd be asking it all the questions, all the nuances about what was happening, bring me up an AI image, sing me a song that they were singing on the boats, give me an idea of what this world, and it would probably be able to visually it might be able to send out some beams of light that create this hologram, so I'm actually in it.
Yeah,
imagine that.
Having a conversation with Socrates. I mean, how cool would
which
that
would
be? Sitting
be
there.
unbelievable.
So
John,
Paveen
I
disagrees
totally
with you.
agree. Did you mean
So,
did you mean you agree, Paveen? Is that what you're saying? We need to give people jobs. A 3D printer
she
can
disagrees.
build a home.
Clearly said disagreed with you.
No, Paveen, we don't need people to do jobs. We need to reinvent jobs. We need to give people liberation, freedom to be creative.
Freedom.
I think there will be other jobs that come along. There might be technical jobs in terms of but even that, I don't know. I don't know if the AI is going to be able to do better than what a human could do. But it's gonna force humans to think differently, isn't it? What does it mean?
Well,
why do you need that job?
There's
And
going
you
to come
can
a
still
point,
do
isn't there?
gardening if you want to.
There's going to come a point, isn't there, that like on let's say, for example, you go into a hospital and you'll lay down in a tube and it will scan you, analyze you, not only tell you what's going on with you right now, but also what may be happening to you in the future. And it's non-invasive. You don't have to have any blood tests. And it will scan your entire body and tell you that actually you've got this growth here. And within seconds, that'll be operated on and you'll spat out the other end and off you go. And if something does go wrong, you'll have that taken out and you'll have a new part put in. So it will become sort of part mechanized.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's coming. It is coming.
It's coming. Yeah, it's coming. Paveen says, I know lots of people in AI. Do you know that you get a Penguin app for mental health therapy, 6 months wait for a real person? I know in the short term it can be very frustrating. You know, this stuff is potentially not up to the level of a human. You're not getting the same connection, so you're not getting the same potential quality, I would say, James. So I get the frustration, but they are going to try and automate out those jobs. I think in the future, when people get used to it, maybe the younger generations will be more used to that type of communication channel and relationship with robots. And they will be able to, they will feel like it's much easier to connect with it rather than being defensive around it. But I get what Paveen's saying. I can feel the resistance. And I think it's normal. I think there's resistance to any change. And I don't think necessarily it's reinventing a wheel. I think it's more, this is what progress is. I see progress as we automate as much as we can, you know, mundanity on this planet. We make it sustainable. We make people's lives, you know, healthy. Well-being is a metric that we use. People won't, there's lots of things that you can do without having to swap your time for labor. You can learn something, you can create something, you can get involved with music. You could there's a million things that I do have got nothing to do with making money. Pretty much everything I do has got hardly anything to do with making money. So I'm probably I'm just, you know, if you got a thirst to learn, but you could still do gardening. There will be so much opportunities to do what you want to do. Go to the jungle, go and experience things. AI, if it frees you up, you could go and travel more. You could do a lot of these things. It's just going to take a real big infrastructure change to get there. And then the next step is us going to be exploring the universe. At some point, we're going to have to get off this planet. I know it seems a long way away, like it's millions of years before the sun expands and blows everyone up and we, you know, clash with Andromeda. It's going to happen. It's just when. But now's the time, you know, if it's like we got to get off this planet at some point. And if we advance as a civilization, that is just the next logical step. We need to figure out what the meaning of life is, what the hell this universe is about. It's just a continual learning path, isn't it? If we make it that far, because I think a lot of things are wiped out before they get that far, like the dinosaurs or a meteorite hits us.
Yeah.
So, John, what are you saying is young people will be able to communicate with AI, but not with real people? We are losing our sense of community and inclusion. Yeah, I think people will be communicating with AI as humans or potentially better, because this AI will know that person inside out. They won't necessarily be confrontational. They will be able to manage situations differently. So I think we're going to have a very...
Never have an off day.
I think we're going to have a very strange relationship. I haven't quite got it clear in my mind, all of the nuances of how that could play out. But it's going to be strange, James.
It would be definitely tricky. If you can have a better conversation with AI than you can with another human being.
And I get it. I'm definitely all for human connection. And I think potentially if we can free ourselves up, we could probably get back to more human connection and let these robots go off and do what they want to do. The creative people who want to get involved with it will go into that sector. But
yeah,
I think this is a runaway train, James. I can't see this being pulled back unless nuclear war kicks off or a meteorite hits us. This is evolving, isn't it?
We're going to end it there.
Yeah. We'll go back to what...
leave it on a positive note.
What, somebody said right at the beginning. We are Lee. We're progressing. Yeah. We're progressing backwards.
Regressing backwards. We disappeared off our own arses.
We didn't even get onto what is time. Does time even exist?
It's relative, right?
It's all relative. So this is it's a big one. But no, take care, everybody. Have to go. Always good conversation. Thanks, Paveen. Yeah, great conversation, guys.
Thanks for everybody. Thank you very much.
Matty England for your contribution there, Matty. I'll have to visit Blackpool at some point in time. And thanks to Lee.
For Lee's openers. It's progressing backwards. Lee, we could have done with a few more comments from you, mate. You just sort of stepped in.
Maybe Lee's AI. It's Lee AI. Lee AI
Lee
Brown, potentially.
Yeah. Interesting.
But Matty says, I think the human race has a lifespan that we can't escape. Not to be gloomy, I just think everything has its lifespan and we're destined to be connected to this planet through ours. Just a hunch. So Matty thinks we're all going to be wiped out. So it's all meaningless.
Happy Monday, everybody. See you on Wednesday for good news.
Yeah. Take care, Matty. Speak to you soon.
Buddy. Cheers, mate.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.